Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books. Welcome back to a Steve Donoghue Top 10 Movie BroTube Challenge episode of Grammaticus Books. And I believe this is the fourth one of these BroTube challenges that we've done. And I will link Steve's last one that he did down in the description below. I encourage you to go check it out over on Steve's fantastic channel. But the way that these work, if you're not familiar with them, is that either Steve or I will pick a genre of movies, and that we will go out and pick our top 10 movies out of that genre and put them up here on YouTube. Usually I will put mine up first, and then Steve will take a look at my movie list and then take shots at my top 10 movies. And sometimes he scores hits and sometimes they're misses. But whether he hits or misses, it always is entertaining. And then he will put up his correct top 10 list of the movies of that genre, which may or may not be correct, and I usually opine that they aren't. But that's how it goes. It's always a good time. And for this session of this episode of the Steve Donoghue BroTube Challenge, Steve picked action movies. So we're doing the top 10 action movies of all time. And let's go ahead and just jump into it. I'm going from 10 to 1. And number 10 is an absolute cinematic masterpiece. It's an undisputed gem of action movies known as Roadhouse from 1989, starring Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott. Yes, you heard me correctly. I said Roadhouse. Just one warning going forward. There will be minor spoilers in this list going forward of these movies, but no major spoilers, but just some minor spoilers. So you've been warned. But Roadhouse, the cinematic masterpiece, it was such a good movie that it was nominated for 5 Raspberry Awards. This is a bad movie, but it's bad in the best sense of the word. It's so bad that it is actually good. One of the ways that I measure whether a movie is good or not is if it's rewatchable. And I will rewatch this movie any day of the week, and twice on Sunday. It is a ton of fun to watch, even though it's absolutely horrible. It is about James Dalton, which is Patrick Swayze's character, who kills a guy in a bar fight as a bouncer. It's justified. When he's working in New York City, he tears his throat out with his hands. And then he is forced to go work in a redneck country bar down in Missouri, where he immediately runs afoul of the local crime lord. And there's a ton of action in it. Obviously, it's an action movie. It is hilariously bad, but it is so bad that it's actually fun to watch. And for that reason, it comes in at number 10. So number 9. Number 9 on the list, we're going all the way back to 1971. This is a cult classic that has had an enormous impact on car chase movies going forward, and it is called Vanishing Point. Vanishing Point, 1971, starring, who's it starring again? Oh yeah, it's starring a 1970 Dodge Challenger with an RT440 Magnum supercharged engine. That's who it stars, and that is actually correct. The star of this movie is hands down the car. It is by far and away the character, the personality in this movie that you're going to remember. The guy driving the car, I could tell you his name, but 5 minutes after you watch this movie, if you watch it, you're not going to remember his name at all. But you are going to remember this 1970 Dodge Challenger. And the premise of the movie is that a disgraced police officer has to drive this stolen Dodge Challenger from Colorado all the way out to California. And as he's driving across the West to make the delivery, the police get onto his trail, and it becomes this gigantic chase scene, a series of car chase scenes with the police going across the West. And it's wonderfully done. And you have these vistas when they're out in the West where the road just extends for tens upon tens upon tens of miles in a straight line to the horizon, creating vanishing points, hence the name of the movie. And in a nutshell, it is drugs, muscle cars, and full frontal nudity, all encapsulated in 90 minutes of celluloid up on the screen. In other words, it is the 1970s in 90 minutes of cinematic glory, all thrown up there and thrown right in your face like a bucket of cold water. But it's wonderful. It is a dose of 1970s and a mega blast of it, like a punch from Muhammad Ali. And I'll put a link to the trailer down below. It's a wonderful movie. Go check it out. It had an enormous amount of influence on Steven Spielberg. It was the inspiration for Baby Driver, and it actually generated several remakes of the movie, which were not nearly as good as this one. But that's Vanishing Point at number 9. So moving on to number 8. Number 8, we're staying in the 1970s. This is 1979, The Warriors, starring Michael Beck. It is a gang movie in New York City. And Michael Beck is the head of the Warriors, and he is one of the most beautiful human beings alive. The man is gorgeous. If I was so inclined, I would have a major crush on him. He's got the wavy hair going. He's lean cut. They got him in the Warriors vest. And he was a mega teenage hunk back in the 1970s in this flick. And he does a fantastic job leading the Warriors in this movie. So the Warriors are a gang in Coney Island, and they've been summoned along with all the other gangs in New York City by the head gang member Cyrus to a meeting in Central Park. And at this meeting, Cyrus is going to try to tamp down the gang violence between the interrelated gangs. But Cyrus gets murdered, and a gang by the name of the Rogues then blames it on the Warriors and Michael Beck. And the Warriors and Michael Beck then have to fight their way across New York City back to their home turf on Coney Island. And there's a cinematic tool in this movie that is exceptionally effective. It's so effective that it's been used over and over ever since this movie was made. And that's of a DJ radio station. So there's a DJ and a radio station that is for the gang members that broadcasts to the gang members after they play in between songs. And they're tracking the progress of the Warriors on the radio station, updating the other gang members where they are and then directing them to intercept and take out the Warriors. And when you see the DJ, when they cut to the DJ at the radio station, all you see are the lips and mouth of this African-American lady and the microphone. And she has a voice that is just as smooth as silk. And she puts out messages to the boppers that are the gang members, and then plays a song like Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide. And this is where that meme, that trope started, was here in this movie. And it's been homaged to death. The most recent homage to it was in John Wick 4, where they basically lifted it and just took it right out of there and put it right into John Wick 4. And it was kind of wonderful to see them do that homage in John Wick 4. But it's a great movie. It's basically a vehicle for a bunch of an inner city New York gang fights between these different gang cultures. So you've got the Warriors who wind up in battles with the Baseball Furies, the Lizzies. There's the roller skating gang. You've got the Gramercy Rifts, and of course the Rogues. And it's just a wonderful movie, done from the perspective of the gang members back in 1970 New York City, which is also neat to see as well. And for that reason, it comes in at number 8. So that gets us to number 7. Number 7 is a foreign film. I try to get at least one foreign film on these lists. I've got one on this action list. And at number 7 is La Femme, Nikita. It's a French film directed by Luc Besson. I believe this is Luc Besson's first directorial debut. It also stars Jean Reno, and I think it's Jean Reno's first major role in a major movie as well. You probably don't recognize Jean Reno as a name as an actor, but I'll put his face up here, and I guarantee you'll recognize his face. He's been in all kinds of things, including possibly another movie that is on this list later on, also directed by Luc Besson, pardon me. I wanted to say Jean-Luc Picard there, by Luc Besson. That's a big hint. And it is a femme fatale assassin movie. It was made in 1990. It is French. It's about a strung-out junkie by the name of Nikita who does a robbery, and during the robbery, she murders a French Parisian policeman. They take control of her, the government does, and fake her death, and then put her into a school to train her up to be essentially a disposable assassin. And her trainer is a government official who's named Bob. And it's not an accident that they give this government assassin trainer the name of an American nickname of Bob. They're making a point there. It's actually pretty clever. I thought it was a good touch by Luc Besson. And after Nikita gets trained up, they release her into the city as a sleeper agent who's there to do their beck and call when they need to. And she immediately meets a love interest, Marco, but then Bob keeps coming in and interfering in their lives unexpectedly, and it just starts to coalesce and turns into a bigger and bigger issue for Nikita. And it culminates in this meeting between Bob and Marco that it's just wonderful. It's delicious. And the action is fantastic. This movie had a tremendous influence on action movies, assassin movies going forward. I think it was a big influence on the John Wick movies. And it actually inspired a 1993 American remake called, I think it was Point of No Return. I'm pretty sure it was called Point of No Return, starring Bridget Fonda. That is not a good movie. This is the original. It is wonderful. The dialogue is just brilliant. It's just smart dialogue. It's very well thought through. The action is great, the directing is great, and I recommend you check it out. That's La Femme Nikita at number 7. So that gets us to number 6, almost halfway through our list. Number 6 is Guy Ritchie's first big movie, and it's also Jason Statham's first big movie, and it's called Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. This is about Jason Statham. This is before he's lifting weights. He's not a big action hero yet. He and a group of friends get into a card game where they become in the debt of a local crime boss, and they have to get, I think it's like 50,000 pounds or something, in 3 days or they're going to get killed. And it leads to a heist that they're trying to do in the underworld of London. It goes wrong, and then things just cascade in an unfortunate series of events that snowballs, and it just gets worse and worse. And it's this dark action comedy that is just brilliant. And what makes this movie so good is you have all these underworld bosses with these great personalities and characters, and the interplay between these underworld bosses and this group of semi-regular guys. And Sting is in this movie as well. He plays the father of Jason Statham. It's a wonderfully written movie, and I recommend that you check it out. The next movie that Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham did, which is Snatch, gets most of the publicity and the love. But for my money, this movie is actually better, and that's why I put it in at number 6. If you like Snatch, though, with Brad Pitt and Jason Statham, you will like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Check it out. So that is numbers 10 through 6. The back half of our top 5, we're going to move forward to the front half. I'm going to take a break for a refreshment drink here to try to refresh the vocal cords, and then we'll be back with numbers 5 through 1. All right, and we're back for 5 through 1 of the greatest action movies of all time. And let's just jump right into it with number 5. Number 5 is 1973. Yes, we're back into the 1970s with Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. What can you say? It's the greatest martial arts action film of all time. Hands down, it's not even a contest. What a wonderful movie. It's Bruce Lee's last movie. He is a government agent who has been sent to the underworld island of Mr. Han in Hong Kong with 2 other competitors for this secret martial arts tournament. It sets the stage for that whole trope of the secret martial arts tournament, a la Bloodsport. And he's got John Saxon and Jim Kelly with him, who are also great in this movie. And it's got that famous scene, who can forget it, with Bruce Lee. He's in the yellow jumpsuit. He's got the nunchucks. It's probably the single most famous martial arts scene of all time. And for that reason, it comes in at number 5 on the top 10 action flicks of all time. By the way, this movie made $400 million back in 1973, which if you adjusted that for inflation, would be somewhere around $2 billion in 2024 dollars. That's pretty amazing. It was just an absolutely massive movie when it came out. But that's my number 5 pick, is Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. So what is my number 4 movie? Number 4 is The Professional by Luc Besson and starring Jean Reno. Unlike La Femme Nikita, this one, Jean Reno is actually one of the stars. He's not just a supporting actor. And we've got Luc Besson again. And again, it is a hitman movie. But instead of being a hitman movie in Paris, it is a hitman movie in New York City. And Jean Reno plays a stoic Italian hitman who's just living his life in his apartment complex when a group of corrupt DEA agents led by Gary Oldman break in and start murdering the family next door. And he takes pity on and saves the young daughter out of the family, who is played by Natalie Portman. And I think it's probably one of Natalie Portman's best acting performances when she's 12 years old, unfortunately for her. But he takes Natalie Portman's character in, who's named Matilda. And then you have this relationship that develops between the hitman and Natalie Portman. And while he tries to get, or I should say Natalie Portman tries to get revenge for the death of her family on these corrupt DEA agents. And it's a wonderful action flick. It had a big influence on John Wick, in my opinion. It also has a great ending to it. And the person who actually steals this movie and all the scenes that he's in is Gary Oldman as the insane DEA agent. He is absolutely fantastic. This is the movie that I think put Gary Oldman on a lot of people's roadmaps over in Hollywood and brought him to the attention of a lot of directors and sort of made his star. He is wonderful as the insane DEA agent in this flick. And that's why it's at number 4. and that is The Professional from 1994 by Luc Besson, starring Jean Reno. So on to number 3. What is the number 3 movie? We're into our top 3 now. Well, I've mentioned it a number of times, so it should come as no surprise. It is the 2014 movie John Wick, starring Keanu Reeves. Yep, they found a role for Keanu Reeves that his wooden acting style actually fits into. Again, as a hitman, we got another hitman movie on the list, and it's in New York City. But this is the first John Wick. The subsequent John Wicks basically just became comic books up on the screen, and they went a little bit too far, in my opinion. But the first John Wick is just a wonderful action flick. It stars Keanu Reeves, Ian McShane, Lance Reddick, Adrian Palicki as Perkins. She does a great job as a villain in this movie. You got William Dafoe, and you've got Michael Nyqvist, I think is his name, as the Russian mob boss Vigo. And the mob boss Vigo, and I think in this movie, really brings it out and makes this film work. And what is great about this film isn't the action sequences, although those action sequences are fantastic. It's the dialogue and the interactions between Keanu Reeves, the other hitmen in the movie, and the hitmen themselves, as this whole plot sort of spirals out of control in this tale of revenge by John Wick, the man who's been pushed too far. It's that old trope, but it's done perfectly. And it's a fantastic movie, and for that reason, it comes in at number 3. And again, it's not the action that makes this film so great. It's the dialogue and the interactions between the personalities in between the action that, in my opinion, cement it as such a great movie. So what is number 2? Number 2 is we're going to 1988. We're back into the 80s, and it is Die Hard with Bruce Willis. You knew it had to be on here. You knew Die Hard had to be on this list. It's widely considered one of the greatest action films ever made, and with good reason. It's got Bruce Willis as the fallible and not indestructible hero, a hero who actually can be damaged and hurt. And you've got Alan Rickman playing Hans Gruber, and just an iconic role. And again, sort of a theme through all these movies. A lot of these movies are made not by the hero, but by the person playing the villain in the movies. And that's certainly the case here with Alan Rickman. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is Alan Rickman's first big role and Bruce Willis's first big role. And Alan Rickman just nails it as Hans Gruber. Who can forget Hans Gruber? And you know it's not Christmas until Hans Gruber falls from the top of Nakatomi Plaza. Although I still contend that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, but I like that line. This is a great movie. I don't need to sing its praises here. I think everybody's familiar with it. It's an absolutely wonderful film directed by John McTiernan, who also did Predator, another film that made it onto another one of my top 10 lists. And that's Die Hard at number 2. So that gets us to number 1. What is the number 1 action film of all time? Well, Steve Donoghue might cry foul on this one because it runs dangerously close to running afoul of our rule about no war-related movies. But it's 1936. The movie isn't from 1936. The movie's from 1981, so we're back in the 80s. But the movie is set in 1936, which is not a war year, so I'm jumping on that in order to put Raiders of the Lost Ark up here. Steven Spielberg, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. You've got Harrison Ford. I mean, what can you say? What a wonderful flick. From the opening sequence when he's out in the jungle, running from the Aborigine tribe that's trying to kill him. He's got the snake in the plane. You've got the gigantic boulder that's running down off of the temple to try and crush him. You've got the great scene up there with the gold temple, the gold idol, sitting up on the pedestal, and he's trying to get the sacks of sand right in order to counterbalance the golden idol. You've got the bar fight scene in Nepal. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. But Steve Donoghue might point out that this movie does have Nazis in it. Nazis, a U-boat, a German Nazi bomber, and German Nazi Gestapo agents. So he might cry foul on this one, but I'm putting it in here. It's too good of an action-adventure movie. It's an absolutely spectacular action film that you can watch over and over and over. I could watch it almost on a weekly basis. It is so well filmed by Steven Spielberg. There is a version of this movie that's out there. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. off the internet. I'm going to put the link down below where Steven Soderbergh um, took the movie, he took all the color out of it, and he took all the dialogue out of it and just set it to music. And you can watch Indiana Jones in black and white, set to music by Steven Soderbergh, and the film makes perfect sense. You can follow everything that's going on with it, everything with the story. Even if you hadn't seen this film before, you would know exactly what is going on because Steven Spielberg is a master director. He is just an absolute pinnacle. He's on the Mount Olympus of directing movies of this type. And it is just a wonderful thing to watch. I'll put it down below. If you haven't seen it, I recommend going out and checking it out and just watch how he uses the camera, putting it in for close-ups, taking it out to medium shots and backouts, and the camera angles and how he follows all the action and the characters so that you understand perfectly what is happening up on the screen at all times. And the reason you can do that is because this is one of the best directed and filmed action movies ever made, and it's why I've got it at #1. But that's it. That is Grammaticus Top 10. I'm looking forward to Steve Donoghue's Top 10. I'm looking forward to his shots at my Top 10. I think he's going to have a hard time poking at these, although I know he's going to, pardon me, after I talk for 20 minutes or so, my vocal cords start to go. I know he's going to take shots at Roadhouse, but I still maintain that Roadhouse is a wonderful film to watch. It is entertaining, and therefore it meets the criteria. So I'm sticking with it at #10. I do have a couple of honorable mentions. Honorable mentions is the film Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. Just for the bus scene alone in that film, the bus fight scene in that film is fantastic. It's worth the price of admission. That is a wonderful, wonderful film, Nobody. It's basically John Wick in his retirement years, if you haven't seen it. Baby Driver, I've mentioned a couple times during this list. A great chase scene movie, car action chasing movie, starring Kevin Spacey and Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx, way out of his normal comfort zone as the villain, and he plays just a chilling villain in Baby Driver. Go check that one out if you haven't seen it. And the last one is Fight Club with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. I had to think of that one there. But Fight Club, I really love that movie. That movie takes a lot of shots. Some of them are justified, but it's a movie that gets more and more relevant, it seems, with every passing year. And I like it. It's a good movie. But those are my top 10 picks. Those are my 3 honorable mentions. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I would love to hear what your top 10 picks are down below, what you think of my top 10 picks. Put it in the comments section. I do read and try to respond to all the comments. And with that, before my voice completely goes, I am going to say this is Grammaticus saying, take care, be safe, and I'll catch you guys next time.